Hi.
My name's J.C. McCauley.
I'm Nyesha McCauley, and you're watching AccessTV.org.
All right, my friends, once again, it's time to get our talk on this morning. Talk with me, your host, J.C. McCauley, along with the champions of talk this morning. We got with us in the house in Studio 1A, Jonathan Small. Good morning, Jonathan. How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing fine, Stan. It's good to be back here again every single week. And hopefully you had a nice weekend.
Good weekend. No complaints.
I know you was busy yesterday.
I was very busy. It was a very busy weekend. Very busy. A lot of productions this weekend. So yeah, that's busy.
Nothing wrong with that.
No. Gotta stay busy. Gotta stay busy. Dallas was busy,
and I mean, I'm feeling better, obviously. Close game, a little nervous towards the end because, I mean, we had the lead most of the game. And then Cincinnati just started playing better football. They controlled the clock most of the second half. And I'm saying, oh, boy, we can't afford to go 0-2. And
yeah, I was rooting for the other team.
Cincinnati Bengals. Oh, man. You know, I'm a Dallas fan. I'm your co-host, and you're rooting against the enemy. That covered the territory. But it was a good game, though. Probably could have been one of the best games of the day yesterday if you sit back and take a look at it. So I believe New England New England won. The Patriots won. The Giants won. Dallas and New York is playing next week. Big game. NFC East rivalry. I believe Tampa Bay won. I don't know if there was any other big games, though. I think most of the game was just probably decent. But pretty much a normal weekend for NFL.
Did you see the Arizona game?
No, I missed that game. I didn't get a chance.
Well, at least the end of the game. Yeah, the end of the game.
They showed it probably after one game was finished.
After the Dallas game.
Right. I think I left the room. Obviously, I had to do something, so I just waited until the game was over. Did they win?
It was fascinating. They did win. The fumble
one. Yeah. Well, it's just getting started. I mean, now you got 15 more games. 2 games already been underneath the belt. And like I say, hopefully next weekend, it'll be some more good NFL games to watch.
I'm sure there will be.
And everything. Nice weather yesterday. Nice day. Really got a chance. I got a chance to be outside, enjoying the weather. And think the next couple of days is going to be pretty nice here in New England. Feeling a little like summer still. I guess autumn is September the 21st or the 2nd?
I'm not sure.
It's getting close.
Yeah. So fall weather begins, and it'll be that beautiful, nice time of the year.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Can't.
Well, it is Monday, which means, of course, we always have a special guest on Monday, someone from around the country or around the world to drop in and share their wisdom, knowledge with us and all the great things that they do. And hopefully you all can learn from the vision that the people that we invite have. So Jonathan is the official booker of guests for Monday. And so with that, we'll let him get underway. Mr. Small, you got the floor, buddy.
Okay. Good morning to people out there on Morning Talk Live with J. Stan McCauley's talk show. We have a very interesting guest who had a tremendous background, very enlightful life story, but we're not here to really talk about him. But again, he has a good instrumental program that I think people will find very interesting and informative towards. The guest this morning is a former professional basketball player, and he is the founder of the Ronnie Fields Elite Basketball program based out of Chicago, Illinois. No other than Ronnie Fields. Good morning, Ronnie. How are you doing?
Hey, good morning, guys. How y'all doing out there?
We're doing fine, and you? Okay.
Oh, man, just trying to, wake up and get this day going.
I do understand it's a little early, Central Standard Time. I do appreciate you getting up a little bit early this morning. Ronnie, could you let people know a little bit about yourself and background before we get into our topics of discussion?
Yeah. I was born and raised in Chicago, Illinois. Started playing basketball and baseball when I was probably around about 12 or 13. End up, stopped playing baseball and started playing basketball a little bit more, start working myself into being a pretty solid player at a young age, being a top player around the state in 8th grade and one of the top freshmen in the country, and moving forward, that prepared me to continue to, get better and see how far I can go with the skill level and the talent that I was blessed with, and I ended up doing that, and then I played at Farragut High School alongside of my good teammate Kevin Garnett, Michael Wright, a couple other good guys that also played professional ball. And then from there, I played overseas over 17, 18 years as well. We had, in high school, we had one of the top high school classes ever. May rest in peace. Alongside was, Kobe Bryant, Tim Thomas, Jermaine O'Neal, Steven Jackson, Mike Bibby, that group of guys that's still, doing a little bit of some of the same things in the basketball world, working with the youth, trying to, pretty much bring back what we was taught and people that showed us the way, helped us out and kept us, focused on something. So, for me, that's some of the things, like I said, I'm trying to do today with the Ronnie Fields Elite program.
Mm-hmm. And one thing, when people look at Chicago, it has a history of putting out some of your best NBA basketball players, from Isaiah Thomas, Mark Aguirre, Derrick Rose. There's more than that. I'm just giving a few. And
Dwayne Wade.
Say that again?
Dwayne Wade.
Dwayne Wade. Oh, yeah. I forgot. How could I forget Dwayne Wade?
And Anthony Davis.
It's just... it might be a rivalry to people throughout the country between New York and Chicago, who puts out the best basketball players, but definitely Chicago can hold its own when you look at the list of talented basketball players that made it professionally.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. We had I think, the Chicago is, I know it get a bad rap because of the gun violence and stuff like that happens here. And I'm sure it happens in a lot of places, but, being in this city, it's a lot of love, a lot of loyalty to the fan base, the people that grew up here as well. And it's a great city, great city, great state. It's just sad that, we get painted because we have so much gun violence at times, not all over the city, all over the state, in certain areas that it get painted like just the whole city and state of Chicago, Illinois, just bad. But it's not like that at all.
Well, I'm glad you kind of clarified that, because unfortunately that's the perception that many people throughout the country hear about Chicago, is just the gun violence, and they don't sometimes realize there's other things, positive, productive, that's taking place in Chicago. And that's the whole, actually this kind of would be a good purpose to lead into the Ronnie Fields Elite Basketball program, and what you are doing and what you're trying to work towards in the very near future. So could you kind of let people know a little bit about the history of the Ronnie Fields Elite Basketball program?
Yeah, for me, me growing up in the city of Chicago, I had some mentors coming up. So, and everybody, and not just the Chicago area, the U.S., in the country, in the world, because I traveled. not always gonna have a father there to, or both parents sometimes. But for me and the father situation there that could help you navigate the dangerous areas and neighborhoods and still focus, um, without getting yourself caught up in drugs or gangs or stealing all those things. So for me, I had some good people that, veered me towards playing basketball and staying away from a lot of the other things. Growing up in a difficult area, difficult neighborhood. So as I look back at those things and I see all the stuff I had to deal with and go through as a young man, mistakes I made when I was younger. But then I also look back like, what helps young men, young women? Um, it's not the mentoring, it's just the opportunity. And you see, times has changed so much where we have more kids, and from my standpoint, from the basketball standpoint, that's playing basketball, but the only thing they looking at is just basketball. And now it's the numbers of, and it's going, is much slimmer playing in the NBA or playing overseas, that a lot of kids now focus on that instead of the task. I mean, the test of what I want to do if I don't play pro ball, or what other career, what else am I good at? Have I tapped into that? So for my program, you get them in as basketball players. It's something they love to do at a young age. The next step is, as you have these kids there, is just teaching them about life, talking to them about life, experiences, making mistakes, ups and downs, how to bounce back, all those different things that is important for these kids to know, because everybody, kids gonna slip up. That's gonna happen. This life. We all make mistakes, even as adults. But I think what we want to do is bring in other people that's been successful in profession, whether it's radio, it's TV, it's sports, it's being an agent, or doctors or lawyers, or any of those things like that. So we have people that come in and speak to these kids on other parts of life and aspects where they can be successful as well.
Well, it sounds like to me, Ronnie, that would be a good measure of covering all of the bases. If basketball is what they really truly desire and what they are passionate about, then you're using, and I say using in a positive way, basketball as a way to reach them. But then realize that there's other components that they have to be developed towards, and there's other opportunities, and also be real with them. And you could even use your life example of what you've been through to say that if basketball, chances are the odds are very stacked high against you that you're going to make it as a professional NBA basketball player. But you have your whole life ahead of you, and there's so many other opportunities that if you just get your education and develop yourself, no guarantees in anything, but certainly the odds are more likely that you can have a nice life and a nice career. But can they really relate to that whole concept at such a young age, in your opinion?
And see, that's the point where it's, in this day and age, the influencer of instant instant success and money comes from Instagram young rappers.
Mm-hmm.
So for every basketball player that still see that, other aspects of success in a fast way, because they see it's posted every day on social media. They follow certain people. The thing about that is, especially from a young black man, you're not gonna see a lot of our young youth following doctors, lawyers, radio personalities, other successful business people. And people ain't noticed that. they're not going to follow those guys that it's a chance they can do their profession or be what they be in their profession than it is being a professional athlete.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? Or a rapper.
Right.
You see, they gonna follow those guys, knowing more likely it's a good percentage not gonna achieve that. It is not to knock down their dreams. Instead of following other successful business people in the world on other things that they might could tap in that they might like and enjoy doing. And that's the thing. It's like if you see some that you like, you're gonna follow it. Even if you not or had ability to achieve it, say you 6 feet. But you see now in the league, I mean, shoot, it's barely 6-foot players in the league now. It's starting off almost like 6'3" to 6'5", 6'10", 6'9".
Mm-hmm.
And it's okay to love a sport. But I think with a lot of young black men is that's the only thing consume them up until their last year of high school. And then it's like, what do I really want to do? Or they get to college somewhere, their first year, they still don't have a clue. So it's not saying that they got to necessarily make their mind up,
mm-hmm.
but they put options in their head of, hey, this can maybe not happen, but look at this as well. You know, teach them how to be resourceful and connected at a early age to people that's successful that can help them in their difficult times. So they can see as other things that they probably can, still achieve if it's not playing professional sports. And even if you do, what will you use with that ability after that?
Mm-hmm.
See, I'm fortunate to build a name, build a brand, and build a program and business throughout what I achieved and accomplished. And I took all of that and not let it go to waste from a life learning standpoint. People say, yeah, that's, you can waste talent. Yeah, you can waste talent depending on how you use it, not just on the basketball court,
mm-hmm.
how you off the basketball court.
Well, that's, true, because sometimes, you have some of your best talented players individually, but they have other missing elements in their life that they just can't seem to develop. And again, when you're looking at basketball as one example, you could be known as a legend high school basketball player. You could be known as a legend playground basketball player. But that's not going to be the same thing as being known as a legend NBA basketball player. I say that to say, when you're in high school and you're a superstar basketball player and you're in college, you could pick up the telephone and ask for any particular favor or help, and you will not have a problem getting it in most cases. If your career, for whatever reason, is not going to be accomplished and you find yourself not being selected in the NBA and you are now an adult and now you pick up the telephone and trying to reach someone for a particular information, opportunity, the phone is not going to be picked up. You're not going to get your phone calls returned because unfortunately society in most cases don't view you now as a special talent or as a special element. Other than maybe your close friends and your close family, they'll stick behind you in most cases. But you've kind of, as an example, has been through the whole game that the young kids that you're mentoring is trying to achieve. So do you constantly have to ground them just to let them know the realities once they get to the next level, one way or the other?
Yeah, I tell you this, John, that's the challenge with youth around the country nowadays is that it's like, say for instance, a professional basketball player that can achieve everything, and you pull up to a like event for the kids to give back. This is what people got to understand. This is why I don't think people do it as much. Athletes, singers, they'll do something in the community, but this is what people got to understand about when they do that. It's a great thing to go back and do them things. But what people don't realize is the athlete or the singer, they get to go live comfortably somewhere else with money. Those kids in their youth, after that one day is over, some it might touch and they might be motivated, but most of the time, those kids going back and they forget about the message the next day and they back in the street gang banging, killing and shooting and stealing. So it's like that message, them coming in and say we giving back and stuff. Back in the days, it meant a lot. You see how many messages has changed from no, you shouldn't be gambling on sports. You shouldn't be, paying kids. You shouldn't be taking this. All these things that, you should be drinking, milk. You should be resting. All the things that we was taught coming up to better us that's not the message no more. And I mean, frankly, no one even really sending a lot of messages. The social media is sending all the messages right now. And this thing of money, fame, that's what it comes down to. It's not, because this is the thing. We was built tough back then on have to deal with a lot. These kids nowadays, it's like they go to adversity, they just give up. They give up and go to the next easiest thing that can help them, or they start stealing and robbing. It's not no, I don't need to do that. I need to straighten my life up. And that's one of the challenges now is for me and my coaching staff is to get the parents behind it, consistently knowing where your kid at, veering them in that direction, motivating them to continue to listen to people that care and trying to guide them. Not, here at times it drives me crazy if I see a shooting or a kid has been shot or something, and most of the time the parents don't even know where the kid was at. So that's one of the difficult things at times. But with this program, we bringing more and more resources around it to help, to try to help these kids. And the parents just be on board with us. I think that can help a lot if the parents be more involved.
Well, is this Ronnie Elite Basketball program, high school students that you're working with?
High school students, kids that finished college, little kids from 3rd, 4th grade on up.
So basically, the program is like basketball, but what's the other things that your program works towards beyond just playing basketball?
Well, like is what we, when I first started doing it, it's like now the goal is working, towards like just getting these kids to understand the importance of getting to school, having other alternates, where they can, achieve besides just basketball. So like we will sit down and like now we would go to, as we practice during the spring, summer, then we start having like classes where we have people come in and speak to the young kids and then just give them a safe place if they want to talk about anything or anything that we can help with, and start from there and just kind of just continue to veer them in the right direction outside of just basketball. And when you have those, a lot of people that come in that's successful that can speak to them in life on how they were, able to achieve their goals outside of not playing basketball, and people that started out playing basketball but end up doing another profession as well, where they can see both sides. So those type of people we bring into the program to speak to our kids.
Stan, you have any questions or any comments you want to make towards the guests or towards this topic?
Nah, I'm in active listening mode because what he's doesn't need a amen chorus. Just needs people to listen to what he's saying because it's right on the money.
Okay, just want to make sure if you have any questions and things that you would like to ask him. So when you're talking, Ronnie, about development, I mean, you mentioned earlier that some of these kids are going through some rough situations. I mean, they're in a tough environment just to get to school or get to a particular program or to get from point A to point B can be very challenging in some areas in Chicago. What are they kind of dealing with? I mean, is the kid basically a kid that has issues, or is a kid that's doing well? I mean, what are some of the kids that you're dealing with? Well, just what are some of the issues that some of the kids that you're working with is dealing with?
Well, some of the challenges it's a couple of things. You have the kids that love the sport of being a part of something. I think sometimes, you look at a lot of things that happen when kids go rogue and they do things. Some can come from not having a good supporting family around them. And sometimes it's kids, their supporting family is the streets. And then it's the other things, the peer pressure of what other kids are doing to feel important, to feel a part of something, even if it's dangerous. But to those kids, it makes them feel like they're a part of something. And for us, I think the goal is to make them feel being a part of something that's good and that's productive and positive. That's the one thing. The challenges is these kids want instant fame and want things right away, regardless if they had to steal for them, kill for them, and a lot of them dealing with just bad home environment. That also putting a lot of pressure on them because the kids are so young. Shoot, their moms and dads are not that older than them.
Right.
So they don't know. It's like you passing down generations of problems and difficulties where no one stopped and said, all right, we got to stop this trading and get everybody focused on a better life, working, bettering themselves, setting examples. And we don't have a lot of that right now. At times we see kids raiding stores, stealing, shooting in cars on expressways, fighting, all these different things. And it's a wide range of reasons that they do it. Not saying it's right, but you sit down and talk to some kids, it's like they can just have an empty soul at that point in time because they don't care or they feel people have given up on them. So they looking at it the same way.
So with the Ronnie Fields Elite Basketball program, do you have to set certain rules and requirements to be part of this program that you can't be out there carjacking, gangbanging, hustling drugs to be part of this program? Or do you try, even if they are involved in some of those elements, to try to get them out of that towards another avenue?
So for us, that's the other part of the program we trying to build for kids that on the streets and doing those things. But for the most part, for the kids that that come into the program now, and if kids that want to play basketball, we can see their motivation outside of that, doing all those other things that's not productive.
Mm-hmm.
So what we try to do is find out, what's going on in their life or their situation. We got a few kids in the program that's been adopted by families that's, had a hard time, fighting and getting away, but they ain't got better because they have been in a better environment of other people that show and care, that they care about them. Something the challenge can be with, you can't go home with them, but you just hoping their parents listening and understanding, listen, we can only do this much, but you got to do the other part. And that's what it comes down to.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody won't be fortunate to get adopted by other better families, better situations. So whatever we can do, we call and make calls to see if we can help them outside of them if they don't want to participate from a basketball standpoint, or they don't want to do or be mentored. We try to we have people that we know that have a thing they call teaching them a trade. So we also have people that we was say, all right, you want to play ball, but while you in school, this business over here show you how to be a carpenter or this or that, where they can learn traits as well while they going to school if they're not basketball players. So we try to give them options. And the biggest thing is just showing them, love and support though throughout the challenges they face and some of the areas they live in.
Well, do some of the players that you're working with, do you see some of them having exceptional talent that they could be the next LeBron James to some degree or the next Kevin Garnett? Do you see some of your current students who have this type of gift? And even yourself, I believe you had a 52 or 50-inch vertical leap, which might be the record. So do you see some of the kids with some exceptional skills and talents that you see that they could be the next superstar?
They not built like we was.
Mm-hmm.
Not that mentally. Like Chicago, we have players, but it's been slowly been, a down couple years. And it's like in anything in life, everybody had their runs of extreme talent. And now it's starting to move around the country. But here, a lot of kids is there's more kids playing basketball, not the most talented. We have a few, and then this is another thing that people gotta understand too. When money come into play with your elite players in your city, the big boys out here now can get those kids. It's the Jay-Z's, the Kanye's. Kanye came and got one of our number 3 players in the country.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you pay and start recruiting these kids and putting them on social media and all this. It's like it's a tricky situation because other kids that's not that size and not that skilled, they actually think they can do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because they want the instant success. And they talk about it, like I say, on social media. For me, it's just like looking at guys, all right, you might be a solid player, you can get to school, use that opportunity. Do we have some, because we have a ton of basketball program, but it's just, a lot of them just focus solely on basketball. Mine is different because I'm focusing on other things as well in my program.
Mm-hmm. Well, Ronnie, not to really point fingers or blame any one institution, but do you kind of like the current format in the NCAA or college basketball that you could only go for 1 year and then the top players could be eligible? And I say that, do you kind of look at that as kind of influencing young kids to say, well, look, I just need 1 year of college basketball to show what I can do. And if I win an NCAA tournament title, that's icing on the cake. but the next step is I'm going to be drafted in the first round, and it's going to be instant Fat City. Do you kind of like this whole concept, how basketball has changed to this direction?
Oh man, it's as being black man and where we grew up at, it's so we are so sports driven for a big chunk of us, us black men.
Mm-hmm.
It's where you coming from, your mom or your dad struggling to at the point in time where you see, because you can struggle in life and work towards something to get better.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're struggling in life and you also, not just from the financial situation, but from the situation of you made it to an area where you didn't get shot and killed. That's another element that people don't understand when a kid is like, I got to leave or make it now. I can't risk the way they killing and robbing and stealing another year, or God willing that it don't happen to my family. So it's a hard thing to, in a way for a kid like, oh, I have an opportunity to move my family away from this and get away from the violent aspect of it. Because a person can, you can be in life and work and not saying, like I say, be the richest person, but in the same token, you ain't gonna be worried as much if you're in a safe environment, a safe area where you ain't got to worry about getting shot or robbed or anything as well, too. Though, when you're in a more comfortable environment, you don't worry about those things. But when you got a combination of both, struggling and living in a bad area and violence, that's hard for a young black man to accept when they have a chance to move their mom or their dad out of a difficult situation. So it's hard for me, like looking at this format for the players that can do it, that comes from that tough environment. I'm all for it because you could be saving yourself, your family, anybody, the faster you can get out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's a very few people, because in basketball, that will have that opportunity. That's a very small window.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is now talking to the ones that really not that level of a player. And it's more of the kids out here that's not that level of a player to play at that level in the NBA, where that's where the message got to be sent more and of like, hey, use the basketball if it can get you only this far to a scholarship at a Division II or Division III. And then from there, start seeking out other things and helping them with other things that they like to do as a major that can translate when they're done to have a job that they, ready for. So it's one of those things like they can, and that's another thing that people don't see. European players are slowly starting to take over more and more jobs here in basketball. And there's only so many spots on the team. So that's another reason that young black men need to start also looking at other avenues besides thinking they're going to go play pro ball in the NBA. Because eventually, even if you do, and you don't be a top player like that, and you do play some years, you still have to have something to do after that, or learn a trait to do after that as well.
Well, one thing, and I was told this about in my early 20s, someone told me, and I think I mentioned this one time on the program, Stan, that if you're not well established in the NBA by 25 or 26, it's very unlikely that you're really going to become a professional basketball player. But I do understand you have the G League, which is like the semi-pro league. But even with that league that you have with the G League, isn't it a certain limit at some point that if you still are not really established, although you had a very long professional basketball background,
Yeah, but it was different. It was different for me to wait now because it's so many kids that's coming in. It's just like, oh, you 3 years older. Oh, we got a 18-year-old coming in now. You see what I'm saying? So, shoot, you right about the 25-year-old mark, 26-year-old mark, of like looking at it like, hey, shoot, they might move me out of this situation over the next 3 or 4 years. So I need to try to make a niche or see where, if it's an opportunity. And that's the thing. It's more and more kids, and they younger and younger that is coming up behind the kids that's already still young, which is, so you can say it's funny saying like 26 is old to still be trying to achieve your goal to get to the next level. That's the sad part about it. Because now I was at this thing with all these Michelle Obama brother runs NABC coaching thing where they honor Roy Williams and Lon Kruger and some other coaches about 4 or 5 days ago. And I got a chance to talk to some of the top college coaches that retired. That was in it. Jay Wright from Villanova, coach at TCU, Bob Huggins, all these guys is there. And this is the thing that people got to pay attention to. These coaches now, college is turning into NBA and G League. So this is what they looking at. The transfer portal. So it's like now, if I didn't recruit you at Kentucky or Duke, because I wasn't sure what you can do at the college level, but then you get picked up by, say, Long Island University, a small mid-major, and you go play real well. Now I see you play at the college level. Now I can bring you up. You can transfer, right? So now the mid-major schools are basically like, damn, shit, if these boys play well, they can just transfer to the top schools. So it's like college, like the Dukes, the Villanovas, the Kentuckys, all the big schools, Michigans, they can look down and be like, hey, now send our scouts to the low division ones, showing they can play at that level and recruit them now. And I asked the coaches, they prefer transfer portals. So what it does now, if you're a high school senior, you're not ranked the least in the top 30, 40 players in the country, you know what that means. You more likely gonna have to go to Division II school or mid-major, which is, right off the bat, because they gonna take freshmen out of mid-majors that's playing well right away now until they change this transfer portal thing. So it's hurting high school seniors for the next 2 to 3 years from a basketball standpoint.
Well, one thing they always have, I believe, the McDonald's All-American. I don't know if that's getting close to 40 years or it's a little bit longer, but that was always when you had the best talented high school basketball players. Then you put them in some type of tournament game and they play against each other. And then the colleges project who's the top high school basketball player. Is that type of format still a very good format to have?
Oh man, it's more than McDonald's games. It's now USA 13 playing against the world, USA 14, 15, 16, 17. Our showcase, Nike have a circuit of their own. Adidas have a circuit of their own. Under Armour have a circuit of their own. So you see it's all over the place now. McDonald's game is watered down. I had to go to one. It was just here. I had to make an appearance. We just had it. We had one in Chicago. And we didn't have one Chicago participant play in it. And the kids are big, they're athletic, all of that. But they don't know how to play basketball yet. They're bigger, they're stronger, they athletic, but learning how to play basketball and use that skill, that's what these kids still got to get better at. understanding the game.
What's
So, like I say, it's all about potential, and it's more potential than it is actually kids. You can say NBA ready or professional ready. It's more potential now.
But see, the thing is, and I mean, I got to be honest, I was young and ignorant and blinded, so I can understand how you could fall into this trap. But it seemed like to me, if you reach the age of 25, 26, and you realize that you're not going to become a professional basketball player, you certainly are a very young person to have your whole life ahead of you in many other different areas. But if you just get blinded or you get mentally stuck that I didn't make it in the NBA or I didn't make it as a professional athlete or a big name hip hop star, big name entertainer, that I can't deal with doing anything else. I don't want to be no janitor working at UPS. So I'm kind of screwed up now. But certainly if you have the right grounding and the right skill development, you could still move so much successfully in other areas. But how
That's
is
the key. That's what you just said. The right skill development and to be able to still move great in different areas. That's the thing of getting into the minds of the youth today. Is that what you said? Getting them to realize they can be great in other areas in their life. Now, if we can ever tap into whatever it is that that can get them to think that way, then we'll solve a lot of problems.
Well, I think the influence has a big part of it. I mean, I know you were highly projected. I believe you came second behind Kobe Bryant as the top high school basketball player. But there's been other examples. I mean, this basketball player, some people say Lenny Cook was actually better than LeBron James in high school, or he was projected to be better than LeBron James with just raw talent. But even with talent alone, there's something else got to be added towards the development. Because if Lenny Cook was actually better than LeBron James, at least he was projected to be better than LeBron James, how come Lenny Cook is not in the NBA and LeBron James is? So I just wonder, sometimes these high projections that they look at players and they put them on this pedestal. And I believe even with the Lenny Cook decision, some of his peers and friends told him not to go to college, which they looked at could have been a starting point of a mistake that he made, that he was so good and he was so talented that he didn't even need to go to play college basketball. And maybe he did need a college basketball. So how is this all now being played into the big picture of letting you realize you're a superstar at 17, 18 years old of age?
This is how I look at life. And it's like, as much as we think we have a little control of our life, in terms of the human decisions and situations. But the one thing for me, that helped me prevail through the difficulties in life of still able to be successful and use all the tools and the skills that I learned up and down to focus on bettering myself as a person, as a man, coach, was looking at saying, I don't want to be a failure in life, what some I was blessed with. Regardless of just playing at the NBA level, had an accident, I could have gave up. A lot of stuff that happened, I could have given up. But what prevailed me is having a strong mind and belief through the difficult times. And some people in life, when they handle difficult and tough decisions with other escapes, drinking, smoking, hanging out with best friends, dating a lot of women. Some people handle things different mentally that comforts them when they're going through a most difficult situation. For me, I was determined to have a strong mind in the right way to understanding, like, man, I seen before, even going through being at the high peak of my, youth, of other players before me in the NBA or NFL on life that couldn't, bounce back after difficult things that had happened to them. And that comes with the mind
Mm-hmm.
and the people around you. For me, one thing I said to myself was like, the Lord will give me opportunities every year, every day I wake up, from making it out of that car accident to trying to achieve, you know, um, any goal that I possibly can, from just showing I can be successful off the court as well on the court, but off the court, using my story, my message, my skill, my talent, and my perseverance to teach others
Mm-hmm.
that they can do it as well. Because a lot of kids ain't gonna be top player in the country and be able to have the resource and build a brand like I did to be able to build what I, build and keep building now.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them won't. So that makes it even more important to teach them to tap into other things that they may enjoy doing besides playing basketball.
Mm-hmm. Well, Ronnie, you was teammates with a superstar basketball player called Kevin Garnett. And if kids look at, let's just say, for instance, you have some type of meeting or, just something to highlight, one side of successful basketball players like Kevin Garnett, and then people who had another level of basketball professionally, but not in the NBA. Do you still think it's a challenge that people are still going to want to gravitate towards Kevin Garnett because they saw him or seen him playing at a high level with the exposure that the NBA consists of more than you playing in other leagues throughout the country? I mean, is that still a reality that the NBA is still like the gold standard on how kids look at professional basketball?
Well, probably early on when I was playing, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Now, his kids want to just play professionally anywhere.
Yeah. Okay.
Anywhere. Overseas will be the next thing that you'll love. You hear a lot here now as well. I played overseas here. And that's another, like they achieved their goal to say, I was a professional basketball player.
Mm-hmm.
Period. It ain't just the NBA. It used to be NBA all or nothing.
Okay.
Now it's professionally anywhere where you're making a living doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And stuff.
Well, is that kind of like a good thing then? You have more alternatives now to be professional?
Yeah, but it's more players. It's more politics and business decisions and choices with the G League players. It's a lot. It's more and more kids playing,
Mm-hmm.
and other people trying to start other little minor league teams and stuff like that, because guys want to continue to play. So like I said, that's why I said, look, the chances are very slim of playing professional ball at the high level of the NBA or the high level overseas.
Mm-hmm.
So many players,
Right.
along with overseas and other countries having their own players. You only allow a couple Americans per team.
Mm-hmm. Well, Stan, excuse me, Stan. I know you always mention that the odds of being the next Oprah Winfrey or LeBron James, like the guest is saying, is very slim. But I also want to ask Ronnie this question, but I can just bring you into it as well. He mentioned earlier about some of these newer tournaments beyond the McDonald's All-American basketball tournament, like Nike, Adidas, and some other companies. Do you think, Stan, and I'll ask Ronnie this question too, that these other new tournaments have the best interest for the kids, or they're just looking at them as a way to make money off of them? I just want to hear do you know enough about that?
I don't know enough about it, but my guess would be, at the best case scenario, would be that it would be mutually beneficial.
Mm-hmm.
You know, as Ronnie's saying, you know, there as you were saying, there's more opportunities, but then there are more kids too. So I mean, they'll have opportunities, and perhaps they can focus on particular things. There's only one NBA,
Right.
and you know, it's like America's Got Talent, or this show got talent, that show got talent. But that doesn't mean you're going to be the next Michael Jackson. Doesn't mean you're going to be the next Prince, or the next musical superstar. There are certain arenas where that are seen as the top. So you know, sometimes it provides opportunities, but you know, you have to make the opportunity work for you. Clearly, they're doing it because it's in their best interest.
Right.
They're going to make money. They get to sell product, whatever the case is. But that doesn't mean that there can't be a benefit for the young people. But they have to have the right. They have to have the right adults around them and in their lives. That's what I would say.
Ronnie, do you see it the same way, or do you see it a little bit differently with all of these different tournaments that they have? Is it like a mutual beneficial for both parties, or is it more toward than just that?
I see it the same way he do. It's mutually beneficial, like I said, for both parties, because more often than not, you're gonna have a lot of the kids that come from, you know, blue collar environments, you know, where parents are not making that type of money, or they got a lot of brothers and sisters involved, and it's just a single parent. So when you look at it, and this is the thing, the shoe companies, the clothing companies, these people know these things. That's why they put them out there and make it where you just can't refuse to take it, you know, say no to it, unless you come from family where, you know, your mom and dad got money and you good, you can just say, you know what, I'll just take these next 2 and 3 years and continue to get seasoned, to get better and learn. You very suddenly going to have that in the Black community, to be that patient for that long when there's something right there at the door of a contract to make money from, even if it's a shoe deal, clothing deal, an Instagram deal. It's hard to tell a family that's struggling, no, not right now, wait.
Well, I'll tell you. Yeah, well, I guess when you're struggling, I mean, Isaiah Thomas, you know, mentioned when he was growing up in Chicago, his family was dirt poor. He didn't see any food in the refrigerator, but he went to college. He came out after 2 years after winning the NCAA tournament in Indiana in 1981. But he really was good enough talent-wise, and he seemed like he was a little bit more mature maybe than your average 18 or 19-year-old. I'm only speculating. But you
but like, you got to understand too, though, but this is what people understand as well. Isaiah went to a suburban white Catholic school. You know, so it's a little bit different, you know, environment of the kids, and you around where it's not the game banging, the loud, the yelling, the kids ditching class, not going to class. He didn't go to school like that. He went with his education first, a good coach, a good mentor he had.
And
so
then
that helped Isaiah going to, come on now, think about it, Indiana.
Bobby Knight.
Yeah, you know what's down there. So that's the difference that helped prevail him in terms of understanding the environment he's being around, and to be patient.
And then when you say environment, this basketball player Ben Willis, I believe Ben Wilson. Wilson, yes, Wilson was highly projected as a talented basketball player. I don't know if he could have been the next Michael Jordan, but he was almost like the next Michael Jordan in Chicago. And then something outside of basketball, the environment,
The environment. Yeah, see, that's what I mean. See, that was the difference. See, Isaiah went to school in the suburban area. Now, not saying, back then, because Gaines was really highlighted even more back when Benji was coming up. So, he was in that area. He wasn't affiliated with none of that. But, just being around the environment with, young kids at the time that didn't know better. What the consequences was and when they did what they did.
And basically, Stan, he got killed. I mean, the people out there was some type of, I guess, altercation.
Altercation.
Yes.
Altercation.
And they made even like a documentary about him. But see, the thing, and I don't want to sit here and say it's something that I just don't like or just don't care for, but reality is we put the spotlight sometimes on like a Len Bias died over a drug-related overdose. But then we don't realize the many other people that's not Len Bias or Benji that gets caught up into elements, and then it's a major problem. I mean, might be a little bit of a different topic, but if you remember, Stan and Ronnie, when Len Bias died shortly after being drafted by the Boston Celtics, then all of a sudden, not saying all of a sudden, but the big movement on the drug war and everything, we got to do something. I don't want to say he was the last piece that pushed it, but it seemed like that had some type of influence that now something has to be done. So it's like basketball players are talented people still carry a heavy influence, Dan, on many different levels. And
because, you're right about that. Because you could be doing the same thing that happened with Len Bias and not be an athlete, nobody can care.
So
not to the people can care your immediate family, but to the public, it don't matter.
And I guess unfortunately, Stan and Ronnie, that's the type of society that we live in. They carry superstar athletes, entertainers. They carry a high level influence nationally and internationally. That people look at them.
They're high profile.
High profile.
Yeah.
Their car accidents and their tragedies that happen regular every day. But if somebody who is famous, when
it happens, you see the impact of social media and all then the people come on and say, "Oh, why this, why that, or this?" That's just, and like I said, in life, we all have a time where, and we'll continue to have times where we have faced adversity or something may transpire. It's just how we deal with it and what we learn from those situations early on and how we handle it as we get old as adults.
Ronnie, we're pretty much running out of time, but I just want to ask you two other questions. What are you looking or planning for the Ronnie Fields Elite Basketball program, and what are you currently looking to do or planning to do for Ronnie Fields beyond just the Ronnie Fields basketball program, if you don't mind me asking?
For me, like I said, my goal is just using the tool of something that I have and from what basketball brought me, along with expanding it out on different topics of violence, kids, dealing with adversity and giving them some type of hope and direction. And that's my whole thing moving forward, along with for kids to have potential to play ball, continue to push them to work hard, and the kids that don't play ball, continue to push them to believe and work hard as well to achieve something for themselves, for their family, moving forward, to have that tool to be strong mentally, to deal with adversity.
Right. Well, again, as we talked off of the air, I mean, hopefully this could be a model program throughout the country and other parts of the country could look at these type of elements, what the Ronnie Fields Elite Basketball program is doing and trying to do, and then just branch that in other different areas because, sports is one big part of our society, but there's so much more out there other than just professional sports. And so, we can't really stop or change the high level influence because sports is just such a popular element in our society, but certainly we can still inform and educate people of other areas of life. I mean, life is really the whole key more than anything else. But again, it was a pleasure having you on this morning, talking with you, learning some things about what you are doing and your program is doing, and talking about other issues and other areas. And if there's one last thing you would like to say before we end this program, the mic is yours.
Yeah, guys, I just want to thank you for just having me on and giving me the platform to talk about, the Ronnie Fields Elite program and these, some of these, matters that's facing the young Black community, to try to, build programs, like you said, hopefully around the country that can help, everyone look at other avenues besides just basketball if they don't achieve their goal of playing in the NBA overseas, to make a living and better their life for their family. So for me, I hope the message, can, for people that's listening and watching, that can see is other alternative options for success in life besides just dribbling the basketball.
Mm-hmm. All right, those words are well taken, Ronnie. It was again a pleasure interviewing you and talking to you this morning. Okay.
All right, guys. Thanks for having me on. Y'all have a great day.
Okay. All right. God bless you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. All right.
Thank you.
Great interview.
Thank you, Stan. I appreciate that. This was not really planned long term to have Ronnie. Just something that every now and then, ideas when you're booking guests and topics, it just comes into your mind. And I just wanted it really. I was trying to get Lenny Cook, the person I mentioned that was actually better, or people said he was better than LeBron James. And, no response. And then Ronnie Fields, I ran to some information about him and he was willing to be on the show. And sometime me and you will have these conversations about alternatives and what kids should be doing or people should be doing. So I wanted to bring him on as an expert before me and you started talking about the odds of what you're going to have to make it professionally, or you got more resources today. So I said, I want to have him to have this discussion. Then maybe afterwards we can talk about it or bounce off of it. Because again, whether it's basketball or entertainment or business, there's a lot of just regular 9-to-5 working class people out here, Stan.
Absolutely. Well, let's have that conversation after the break.
Okay.
And we'll take a short break, and then we'll be right back. Stick and stay. Don't go anywhere. It's more than talk.
To be here is our mission, full of purpose. We are driven, we are special, we have pride in who we are, and you can't break our stride. And if you see, like I see, you will realize it's not a dream. This school you make it, lessons you take it, and we work as a team. This school is better with you in it. Yeah, for every hour, day, and minute. Yeah, we are here, we are winning. Yeah, the school is better with you in it. In it. We are loving when you're here. Yeah, man, the future's when you're here. Hope you realize we do, can you believe it? Yeah. Yeah, this school is better with you in it. Yeah, this school is better with you in it.
In our school, such a given for you to learn is our mission. When we ver is what we are as a unit, and you can't bring us down. And if you see, like I see, you'll realize it's not a dream. This school you make it, chances you take it, and we work as a team.
This school is better with you in it. Yeah, for every hour, day, and minute. Yeah, when you hear everyone is winning. Yeah, this school is better with you in it. In it. We all love it when you're here. Yeah, better futures when you're here. Hope you realize we do care, can you believe it? Yeah, this school is better with you in it. In it.
And just to let you know, before you go, we know your skills won't fail to show. Yeah, we will call you our greatest prize. We know that you'll reach for the skies. Like a star, you'll come right through. I'ma rock with you. Nothing can break us apart because
This school is better with you in it. Yeah, for every hour, day, and minute. Yeah, when you're here, everyone is winning. Yeah, this school is better with you in it. In it. We all love it when you're here. Yeah, better futures once you're here. Hope you realize we do care, can you believe it? Yeah, this school is better with you in it. In it, this school is better with you in it. Yeah, this school is better with you in it. Yeah, this school is better with you in it. Yeah, this school is better with you in it.
All right. Morning Talk. City Place, downtown Hartford, Connecticut.
Yeah.
With Hartford 21 in the background. Little broken glass. That's downtown. I think they fixed that.
I would hope so. By now.
By now. It's Morning Talk. Welcome back. Jason McCauley here with Jonathan Small. And we continue the conversation.
Well, again, Stan, I mean, sometimes, the spotlight is on high-profile images and things in our society. Even this past week when I was trying to book a guest for the show, someone that I reached out to told me that he felt, and this is kind of like constructive criticism for the network, that we need to act like we're bigger than what we are. But I don't think he meant that on a fakeness level. This might be a difference that me and you have. I mean, you like to sometimes promote this network as the public access network. I don't like to really promote it as the public access network.
Not as a public access network.
So
it's we give voice to those who don't have a voice. But that's what we do.
Yeah, but I mean, the Hartford Public Access, I don't want to get the network confused with the Hartford Public Access.
There's nothing we could do about that. That's out of our control. If people associate the name with something like that, then. But there's Access TV. There's a lot of people who think we're Access TV. The big time show.
Right.
we're not that.
We're not that. So when the person is telling me we need to act like we're bigger,
I understand what that means.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You do understand.
Be bigger than you are. Be bolder. Be boom, boom. You know, punch it out.
Right.
You know, you may be the little man, but act like you're the biggest guy on campus. I understand that concept.
Okay. To do that.
But I am old enough that I don't have to be self-delusional.
Right.
I have no problem being what I am.
Okay.
And so what I am suits me just fine.
That's fine.
And, you know, people have to make a conscious decision now. You know, I always have these conversations. You know, we are not CNN Plus. That didn't have enough viewers to stay on the air. So they could act like they were bigger than they were, but they weren't going to be successful. So they stopped.
They stopped, right.
There's reality and there's the land of should. We don't live in the land of should. We live in the reality of the now.
Right.
And, you know, the Golf Channel could have kept on acting like they were bigger than they were.
But they're not.
But they're not. Like Back Nine. I don't mean the Golf Channel. Like Back Nine could have been, you know, there was a golf formatted program. But they could have acted like they were bigger than they were and losing millions of dollars a day.
Right.
But they weren't. So some that, you know, there's what you would like it to be, and then there's what it is. And, you know, and I think your guest talked about that. There are a lot of young people who are living in the land of could, would, and should, thinking they're going to be NBA basketball players.
Right.
And they believe it with all their heart. And they go out on the court, and every day they hammer it out just like they are, but then they don't understand the game. They don't. So all of those thinking a thing is the beginning of the possibility. But being grounded in reality is much better than to convince yourself that you're something you're not.
Well, I'll tell you, you know, I used to love to play basketball when I was a teenager, and I think the guidance counselor, someone that was working in the guidance counselor department in junior high school, when I was telling him I was ready to go play for the Weaver High School basketball team, and that's why I told him that's why I decided, or one of the reasons why I decided to go to Weaver, because I wanted to play on the basketball team, and my mind was kind of focused on basketball too. And then the guidance counselor, whatever role he had, told me, look, the odds are very slim that you're gonna make it, you know, playing professionally basketball, because I was telling him this is just one step. You know, the next step after that would be to go to college, play for a high profile college basketball team, and we're just talking about a lot of dreams and aspirations. But when he kind of instilled in me that chances are you're not gonna make it professionally, you gotta look at some other alternatives. From that point on, I never really looked at basketball the same. I mean, I still played the game, but I never was really that highly driven anymore after just having that conversation. And I don't know if that was a good thing or a bad thing, but he probably just saved me 4 more years of either kidding myself or being under this illusion that I was going to go to the next level. Because every different stage you go through, Stan, when you're playing first adolescent years, 10, 11, 12-year-olds, you're playing at one level. Then when you're going to teenagers, you're playing at another group of level of higher, bigger, stronger people. You're playing from high school now to college. You got to make another transition. And then if you're fortunate enough to go to the NBA, now you're playing with adult men. So every different stage that you're playing sports, in particularly, as you move up, you're going to find the competition is going to be much better. It's going to be much tougher. And then it's going to highlight some of the weaknesses that you may have or that you will have, and kind of let you know how good a player you really are once you start to move up to the next level. And it was easy for me as a teenager playing, you know, playground ball against kids my own age or a little bit younger, a little bit older. But as I started to go up against tougher competition, you start to realize, well, some things I'm just not good at. This guy can slam dunk. I can't slam dunk. So now my ego is kind of a little bit crushed. How come I can't dunk a basketball and this guy can dunk a basketball? So it's just at different stages, you go through.
But I think that you can apply that to everything in life.
Mm-hmm. In life.
There's always going to be someone that's better than you, and there's always going to be someone that you're better than.
Right.
That's life.
Mm-hmm.
That's the real world.
Mm-hmm.
In the land of should, everyone should be equal. Everyone should have the same opportunities, and everyone should be able to achieve the same goals. But that's just not reality.
Reality, yeah.
And there are people who live in that fake, false, delusional world of should. I use those words on purpose because that's what it is. It's not real. And there are people who set policy by it, and is very, very destructive, in my opinion.
But I think at some point, Stan, I mean, we was talking earlier about, I said the 25, 26-year-old going to come to a realization that if he's not established in professional sports, that he's just not going to make it. But it seems like to me, you got, and I've said this, during the conversation, so many other opportunities or could be opportunities.
Yeah.
I mean, it all depends what situation that you're in also, that you can move towards. But I can still see why some people could get, because of personal experiences, why some people can make mistakes and get caught up into the fantasy world or the dream.
People do all the time. I mean, that's also part of life. That everyone has to make their own way in life, and people have to make decisions. And there are consequences. There are consequences and rewards. Consequences being something not necessarily so nice. Rewards being something that's great. So I use the words in that sense. There's always a return for every effort, or every action creates a reaction. And some of them are good. Some of them are not so good. But that's life.
Right.
That's life. And I think, if young people were prepared for life, then it would do them much better. Your guest talked about that a little bit. He touched on that when he was saying, referring to himself and the people his age and older, they were prepared. They grew up. There was a different grit with the young people. Life was different. Life on the street was different. Life at home was different. Things were different than they are now. Young people believe that because they believe in one thing, it just happens. I mean, it's fantasy, and it's very dangerous and reckless for adults to sit by and allow that kind of stuff to continue.
Well, he also mentioned, about the instant gratification.
Yeah.
But then he mentioned some of your social media outlets, how that's playing a role.
It does play a role. But young people are influenced. Period. They're just influenced. Everyone is influenced, but young people in particular, they learn that way. They understand language. They understand what they can and can't do. They're influenced by everything around them. Taste, sight, all of the senses bring information. They are influenced. So some of those influences are good. Some of them are bad. Social media is but one point of influence. If it's the only influence, and they're involved or on social media doing in an arena or on pages or in groups that are negative, then they're going to be negatively influenced. But there should be more avenues, more streams, more things that touch their lives than just the social media. So, what touches that young person or that individual's mind? And your guest talked about empty souls. You know, the soul is the realm of the mind. So what if your mind is empty, it becomes a sponge. If you throw a sponge out into a wet environment, it'll absorb whatever's around it. Kool-Aid, gasoline,
Right.
it doesn't matter. Water, and that's how people's minds are. So they absorb what they're exposed to. So people need to be exposed to things that are of more meaning, things that are positive, things that are good. Think on these things. But people are exposed to all kinds of stuff. And if you're exposed to a lot of bad ideas and a lot of bad thoughts, before long, those become normalized, and the individuals hold those thoughts as being the way things should be.
Well, I think, like you said, I think the more you advocate, whether this type of program, the Ronnie Fields Elite Basketball program and other programs, because, I mean, you'll even say here locally, we have a lot of different programs. Sometimes more programs isn't really the answer. You know, what's really happening with the current programs that you have might be more effective than saying we need more money for this program or we need more money for that program. I mean, it's programs. I mean, the way the substitute from other factors in life that's not available. I mean, sometimes a program might be the only outlet that some people have to turn to.
I think programs are good. There's nothing wrong with programs, but programs in and of themselves and by themselves are not the only solution. Program is another instrument to bring to bear, another tool on the shelf. But the program by itself is not enough. It's just another thing.
Well, I mean, I just heard on the news this morning, I guess in Connecticut, they're going to have some type of heating assistance program, since we're talking about programs, that if you make a certain amount of money or you fall into an income guideline, you'll be eligible for heating assistance. And you have to apply, you know, the application process. So
And that's great if you need it.
Right. If you need it, you know, to have programs available. And then sometimes taking advantage of things that's out there too. You know, sometimes you got all of these different programs and you may not take advantage of it the best you know how to.
Well, you know, it's like, you know, it's called a program. It's really an opportunity.
Okay.
It might really be relief. So you go into a restaurant, a buffet, right? Don't mean you got to eat everything in there because it's all you can eat.
Right.
You eat, you get full, you go home.
You go home.
Some folk want to take food home with them after they ate.
Get everything out of it.
Right. You eat, go into the restaurant, you eat what's available, from what's available, what you like. Oh my God, I didn't know they had shrimp. Oh, I didn't take advantage of the roast beef. Oh my God, they had mashed potatoes with scallops and I mean, you know, you get what you need and then move on. A lot of people aren't hungry, just ate, and still want to go get it because it's there and it's free.
It's free, yeah.
It's just greedy. And you have a lot of people that are greedy on programs. They don't need the fuel assistance, but why should I have to pay for it if it's free? I mean, that attitude, I understand, but that undermines why the quote-unquote program is there. It's there to help those who have a legitimate need and can't afford fuel and will go cold. That's what it's for.
Yeah. Well, that's why you got to have certain guidelines. And I think this fuel assistance program, you have to fall under a certain income category, because if you got people who don't really need it, then it wouldn't be justifiable for them to be in the program for people that really needs the program. So that's why you got to have guidelines.
You have the guidelines because people will take advantage of everything they can. And you have to limit that.
Right. So that's a good thing when you have that.
But programs are there to help people. Youth programs help youth. They're generally targeted to youth that are either in perhaps troubled youth. Programs that keep kids from getting into trouble. The best program is family.
Right.
They don't want to put money into that. But so the best program is a solid family. Mm-hmm. That's the best program.
Right. And then that goes from a solid family to a solid community.
So,
you know,
right. You got a solid family. You got a solid community.
Mm-hmm.
Got a solid community. You have solid schools, solid government.
Mm-hmm.
Those things. That's how you get those. You can't. If the families are, if the base unit is dysfunctional, everything else will be dysfunctional.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, how you repair families or community? I mean, this may not even be the perfect, example, but since I guess last week we was talking about the need for a grocery store in the downtown North area, and then there was some type of I think I sent you a news segment of highlighting the push to actually build a grocery store in the downtown North area, providing healthy foods in particular.
Yeah.
And I heard, I don't know if this is an accurate statement, that someone mentioned that the life expectancy in West Hartford to Hartford is like 15 to 20 years. I don't know if there's any scientific evidence to back up that theory.
Well, there's a whole lot of reasons why West Hartford's they make more money, less stress.
Right.
I mean, you can use data to support whatever you want to do. So I'm never impressed by that.
Okay.
I don't live in West Hartford.
You always say that about other towns and cities.
I live here.
Here.
I don't live on the West Coast.
Uh-huh.
The weather on the West Coast is nicer. The weather inequities,
Right.
Why can't we have the weather that they have out? They have fires out there, too.
Yeah.
Every year. You go back every year, there's been a big fire that burned up all kind of stuff.
Right.
Would you rather have fires or hurricanes?
Hurricanes, yeah.
We live life, and like your guest said, he trusts that the Lord will make a way for him every day when he gets up and puts his feet on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
And you do the best you can. You don't have control over what goes, But the grocery store is something that a lot of people would like to have. I actually had a client over the week that was doing a big event on grocery.
Mm-hmm.
And starting a grocery store downtown, and the mayor spoke at it, and they had workshops. It was very well attended, and sister cities came and they talked about this whole program. And but
see, I think sometime, and I don't want to again speculate or speak for other people, but sometimes people who are well off and who have made it, they feel like, there's no excuse or no reasons why other people can't make it. I mean, they may understand some of the issues that they're going through, but it's hard sometimes for some well-established families and communities who their children have grown up and been able to graduate, go on to the next level, and they can't figure out why other children can't do the same thing. Again, they may have some ideas and understanding about it, but they don't accept it more than anything else.
Do they need to? Do the people in West Hartford need to understand what's going on in the lives of anyone else in order for those lives to be better?
No, they don't. I mean,
I hear these kinds. I'm on a mission to push back in mighty, mighty ways these days.
Uh-huh.
I hear these kinds of things all the time. The rich don't understand. The rich, if they understood, what difference would it make?
What difference does it make, yeah?
Unless they decided to just give you all their money, which they're not going to do.
Right.
So do the rich need to understand what life is like for those in poverty? Or do the people in poverty need to understand, what do I have to do to get out of this?
Well, that's more important, I think.
I think that's far more important, because there's people getting in this country under the worst of conditions that will make it. Their condition is worse getting here than the folk here, and they'll make it.
Well, again, that's why the people, like you say, you always concentrate on where you live at. It's the people. And again, if this movement towards bringing a grocery store is with the Hartford City Council and other elected officials, then I guess they have to live here. At least they're supposed to live here if you are a Hartford City Council person.
I hope they live here.
You hope they live here. That represents the best interests.
Well, that now I think Councilman Josh Mitchum had the best thing. And if the city wants a grocery store, then the city should own the grocery store and put it down there. Mm-hmm. Make it part of what it is they do. Because that's what happens in some other towns.
The city actually owns.
City owns the store.
The store, yeah. But that might be the only way it can happen sometime.
Right, because there is no economic incentive. I have lots of friends who are into this. There's no economic incentive for the store to be here, or they would be here.
Well, that's what I'm saying. There's not enough money to keep a grocery store functioning from the people that would go or needs groceries. I mean, that's really what you're saying. I think that's what it almost sounds like, that the people that live in the city, they just can't afford to go to a Whole Foods store.
That's not true.
That's not so.
That's not true.
So what? So how can it not be an economic incentive then that it can't sustain itself?
Well, what you said is different from that. The people that live in the city can't afford to go to. They can afford to go to the one that's in West Hartford. Mm-hmm. There's 2 of them in West Hartford.
Right.
There's 2 Whole Foods in West Hartford.
Mm-hmm. I go to both.
2.
Yes.
Which means West Hartford, go there. Mm-hmm. There used to be wasn't a Walmart. Was it a Walmart? It was a Walmart grocery store in West Hartford too. I think that was on the lower level, back underneath, across from in Bishop's Corner. Mm-hmm. I think that was a Walmart. Okay. It was a Walmart grocery store, strictly grocery. That's all that was in there. I'm almost positive. Yeah. Mm-hmm. They closed.
Okay.
They closed. It wasn't working for Walmart. Mm-hmm. So they closed. Yet there's 2 Whole Foods.
Right. But how is it not sustainable for a Whole Foods to be built in downtown North Hartford? What's going to
I don't know what makes it sustainable or not sustainable. I don't know whether West Hartford has a sustainable, is it sustainable for Walmart to have a grocery store? Apparently not, because they closed. I know that business wants to make money. Mm-hmm.
But I'm saying, how is it that the Whole Food store in downtown will not make any money if you put it there? Do the people have the means?
It is just say Stan, not necessarily the truth. Mm-hmm. If Whole Foods could make a whole lot of money by putting a store downtown, they would put a store downtown.
Right.
That's how I could say that. Because they're motivated by profit.
Yeah, but you're still not really giving me the direct answer I'm looking for. The people that live in the city would be the ones going to the Whole Food store.
Not necessarily.
So there would be people from the surrounding areas that would come.
I don't know who's going to go there, Jonathan. Mm-hmm. Anyone that wants to shop for the kind of food that is in Whole Foods will go there.
Right.
I know a lot of people from Hartford go to the Whole Foods in Bishop's Corner.
Yes.
They go to the Whole Foods in West Hartford Center. Mm-hmm. They go to both.
Right.
I see people in there all the time from Hartford.
So that almost means like you already have. Why would the people now in Hartford go to the one that goes to the one in West Hartford? Why would they all of a sudden go to downtown North, or would they go to downtown North?
If Whole Foods was downtown Hartford, mm-hmm. all the people in Hartford that shop at Whole Foods would go there. But it is not economically. There's no economic incentive for Whole Foods to put a store in downtown. Those people that go to West Hartford Center or Bishop's Corner would stop going there.
Right.
And they would go downtown, which means that the Bishop's Corner store, one of those 2 stores may have to close to go downtown.
But I still think Whole Foods in West Hartford is being more supported by West Hartford, even though people in Hartford go there.
That's where it is, and yes, a lot of people in West Hartford, apparently there's enough of a demand for Whole Foods products that they can support 2 stores.
2 stores.
Not just with West Hartford, but Simsbury, over the Bloomfield, Hartford, Avon.
Well, to me, that doesn't make much sense to drive all the way from. I can see Hartford.
It doesn't make sense to
Bloomfield.
you, Jonathan. But what I'm suggesting is that businesses put up storefronts because people come there. They may wind up in a particular locale because in that locale there are lots of people there. Now, let's use something that we use, a very basic product. Illegal drugs. Now, they're not standing on the street corners in West Hartford selling drugs, but they are in Hartford.
All right.
The people in Hartford aren't supporting the drug dealers. They're not in Hartford because Hartford has this great appetite for drugs. People come all the way to Hartford to get their drugs.
It's the drugstore, as you always mention.
Right. They come from West Hartford. They come from Glastonbury. They come from Dewey. So people will drive for a product that they want.
Well, I see your point on that level. The only thing I was suggesting or just inquiring about, I don't know if Avon or Glastonbury, if they have, I would assume they most likely have a Whole Foods.
Glastonbury has a Whole Foods.
Right. So if you have one in Glastonbury, it doesn't make much sense to go way out of your way because it's the same food products in Glastonbury.
I go to the one in Glastonbury. I go to the one in West Hartford Center. I go to the one in Bishop's Corner. Those are the 3 Whole Foods
that you go to.
That I will go to.
Okay.
1/6 dozen the other from where I am. If they put a Whole Foods in the middle of downtown Hartford, I would go there. Well, a whole lot of people would go there. But apparently not enough people to make Whole Foods want to build and put one there. That's my point.
Well, the other side is where you have the Walmarts on Flatbush Avenue is very crowded constantly. So if you this is being hypothetical, but let's just say you replace that, like you mentioned, the other Walmarts went out of business that was near Bishop's Corner.
It was just a food. They didn't sell other products. They only food.
Only food. Okay. The Walmarts that was there.
It was a Walmart food store.
Oh, okay. I never even paid much attention.
It was nice. It was great. You go to Walmart, then you go over to the Whole Foods.
But still, if you put a Whole Foods where Flatbush, if Walmart's went out of business for whatever reason, and you put a Whole Foods on Flatbush Avenue or Flatbush where the Walmarts currently exist at, you don't think that would be a sustained? The same people that go to Walmart,
Jonathan. Let's say it would be sustained if they put it there. We're on. I think we're on 2 different chapters in the same book. The issue is not, can the data show that we have enough income in Hartford, particularly in North Hartford, that if you put a store here, you can't say that the people here won't shop there because they don't have enough income. Well, the statistics show that they do have enough income. The statistics show that they have enough income to buy a house that's $230,000. All this data doesn't mean a thing. If I am sitting in corporate, where am I going to put my store? The theft rate is higher there too. The shrinkage rate is higher there too. The tax rate is higher there too. Do I want to put my store there? Will other customers come there to shop? If the only customer that's going to come there to shop lives in North Hartford, there are not enough residents there to support my store.
Well, that's the complete answer that I was looking for, that you just mentioned those other factors. So it's just not you mentioned the theft rate, the insurance rate.
I'm not saying that those are the issues. I'm saying, but that's what the decision makers at the corporate are going to think about.
Mm-hmm.
There's no McDonald's downtown.
Yeah, I know that.
They closed the McDonald's downtown. Hartford's like one of the few cities in the world that doesn't have a McDonald's in the middle of the city.
Right.
There's a Burger King downtown, but the McDonald's, for whatever reason, they decided to close it. It's not there because we want a McDonald's. We deserve a McDonald's. You know, McDonald's could put one there if they wanted to, right? But they don't. So they close the one that's there and they're not there anymore. My point is that these decisions are not made by people protesting or by people making lofty speeches of need, this, that, and the third. They're there because someone in business decided, I'm going to put it there. It's sustainable. Now, Max Guattari wants to put a supermarket in North Hartford, and they won't let him.
You mentioned that, yeah, on North Main Street.
Right, and that's in the article that you referenced.
Reference to, yeah.
Okay, so here's Max Guattari wants to put a supermarket in the North End, and the powers that be are doing everything they can to stop him. So the whole argument that we need a supermarket in downtown is it's foolishness.
Yeah.
When you drill down into how those things get to where they are.
You know, I don't know if I would. I mean, I have no problem getting someone to discuss the ins and outs of having. I would rather probably just talk about business in general in the city more than just the grocery store. But I can understand, you know, that would be still a good conversation to find out why.
I could give you people who are very, very pro supermarket. In downtown Hartford, in North Hartford. I have friends of mine who are very much in favor of that.
Well, the geographical location, again, if you look at Walmart's, now Walmart's is not Whole Foods, although, you know, it sells groceries.
It's a
superstore. You don't see it as
there's no demand for a Walmart downtown.
No, but I'm saying Walmart's, where it's currently located at, is making, I guess, a tremendous profit because it's always jam-packed.
Otherwise, it wouldn't be there, Jonathan.
Right.
That's a business 101.
So it looked like some businesses can definitely sustain itself like a Walmart, and then there's others just will not be. I mean, that's what it really comes down to. You know, whatever the motives behind it, why it can't. I mean, it just looks like in reality, there's certain businesses that can sustain itself in Hartford, in the North End, and others can't.
The business is sustained by the demand for what they sell. When it's no longer a demand, the business closes. There are businesses in the plaza where Walmart is that aren't there anymore. Because people didn't want what they were selling.
Right.
So, you know, Walmart is a store that sells many products that people want and need. So Walmart has their distribution around now. One reason why other stores may not be surviving may be because of Walmart. Because if Walmart sells what you're trying to sell over here, you know, there's a game store over there, but they meet a real specific niche. But Walmart could very easily shut them down because Walmart sells games. If they beefed up their game department and put a couple of expert gamers in there and put a little gamer kiosk in there, they shut down the little GameStop.
Well, the supply and demand. I mean, even believe it or not, even that in my old neighborhood, the North Main 06120, you still have a hardware store at Star Hardware Plaza where it's kind of like a mom and pop model. It might not be a traditional mom and pop, but it's like the size of the hardware store, the history of that hardware store is still like a mom and pop. People's
demand for what they have is high enough that they can make a profit and stay open and thrive. So you consider how many people in Hartford rent. I think it's 75% of the residents in Hartford are renters.
Renters. It's a higher rental percentage than it is
Right.
ownership.
So if those places are renting, then it also it's also safe to say that most of the buildings they're renting are maintained. There are some that aren't, but most are. So you need to fix your toilet, you need to fix the screen, you need to fix something else, this, that, and the third. So the hardware store supplies all those things.
Right.
And it's right there in the community. You just run down there, pick that up. The landlord or the custodian or the superintendent of the building or just the homeowner can run out and get something. You get a doorknob, you get light bulbs, you can get all of the things that you need to maintain your house. Curtain rods, all those kinds of things. It's easier to go there than it is to go to Walmart.
Or Home Depot or Lowe's.
Home Depot. I'll go over here to the hardware store on Park Street all the time. I can walk over there. Rather than get in a car and drive all the way to wherever I got to go to Home Depot, either West Hartford or Bloomfield, to get 3 bolts.
Yeah.
I can walk over there. And as soon as you walk in, there's customer service. Hey, can I help you? Yeah, I'm looking for 3 bolts. Oh, come right over here. And what size? Quarter? I'm not sure. Well, what do you got there? They'll help you out, and they know where everything is. And it's a great place.
All right.
I love it. And so I'll go over there. Now, I can't get lumber over there. But any other kind of thing you can get. It's a fact. Well, I like the hardware store, so, you know.
Well, I mean, like you mentioned before, Stan, every decision towards a business is a business decision. I mean, in most cases, I mean, business first and then what else comes afterwards. If you have a sincere desire to want to help the community, but it's definitely a business profit decision first.
If you're not in business, you can't help nobody.
Can't help nobody. So
right, business is not in business to help the community. Business is in business to make a profit and to support somebody. And in that, the community may be helped. People may be employed. They you know.
Well, do you know what makes a community sustainable and develop? I mean, we don't have to keep going back and forth in nauseum about this reasons or that reasons. I think some of it is clearly evident, Stan, that there's some deficiencies that some in most inner cities throughout America have. That's going to always make it difficult to attract businesses and business developments comparable to other surrounding
certain kinds of business.
So, you know, if there's a lack of certain businesses in your inner cities that could be useful and beneficial, and you just can't get that type of business in your city or your inner city, it's most likely going to leave a void in certain services that, and you hear this too. This was also mentioned with the grocery store, that the lack of transportation out. You may not always accept that reason, but you'll find many people who don't own cars. They'll walk to your, I guess they call them the little smaller stores. They got a name that they call those stores. They're not grocery stores, but they sell certain food products, the bodegas or whatever.
Like your little bodega. Those are like corner stores.
There
are actually supermarkets in Hartford. There's Bravo.
There's Bravo.
There's
well, those are grocery stores. I don't look at that as a supermarket.
Right.
It might. I say
those
that's
are
more
groceries. You know what? It would be a lot easier to ramp those stores up, to give them the resources that they would like to have fresher food, fruits, and vegetables, than it would be to build get a Walmart, to get a Whole Foods. It's like, what is it with Whole Foods? You know, why can't those stores be supported, and then they will be, I mean, they're there. Why? It doesn't make sense to me to belittle dog and demean the efforts of those people, those grocers, as though they should be shut down. Folk are trying to close those because they, you know, if the stuff on their shelves are outdated, they send some inspectors in there and find them.
Yeah.
I don't understand this.
And truthfully, some of the goods you get in the Bravo is just as good as what you'll get in Stop and Shop. I mean,
Of course.
I've shopped at both. I mean,
same product.
yeah. And if it costs a little bit more here and there, I mean, that's still, sometimes they have better deals than Stop and Shop, believe it or not. So it all depends on what you're looking for, whatever the case you might be in that area or whatever the reasons behind it. But like you say, that's probably that's more realistic to develop and expand a Bravo grocery store than it is to attract a Whole Foods, because that's all you're going to be hearing about. There's other. Big Y is a pretty nice, classy store, I believe, in the Bishop Corner area. Not too many of them. Stop and Shops, you have a few. Well, you have one on New Park Avenue. That's in Hartford. I think you do have a Stop and Shop.
Yeah, the Stop and Shop on New Park, right below the theater.
The theater.
There's a store on Weathersfield. What's the?
That's Seatown.
That's Seatown. Mm-hmm. Now the owner of Seatown, I talked to the owner of Seatown. The city did a video, a Healthy Hartford video, and so this was shortly after Mayor Bronin became mayor that they did this video, and so it was on fresh vegetables. It was part of a I think there was like WIC and other things, ways that you can use, and get fresh foods. Anyhow, they being part of the production. I was, doing the production for that. And so I interviewed the guy, that was, I didn't interview. He interviewed, but not on this subject. Mm-hmm. But between shooting, I had a conversation with the owner of the store. He said he would love to expand his store. Mm-hmm. City wouldn't let him. Mm-hmm. So that he could do more and bring in more. Now, when I was living downtown, I used to shop there because we didn't have our car for a long time.
All right.
So we could walk up through the park and go there.
Now, when you keep saying city, who are you talking about? Who makes these key decisions that can stop a business?
I don't know who makes these decisions. The Department of Economic Development, license inspect. There are obstacles in the way of him moving his store to having his store expand. Maybe a zoning issue, maybe a building permit issue, things that you have to do. I don't know what the limitations were, but he said that his desire to expand, he got plans, everything. The city wouldn't let him. Who's in the way of Max Guattari?
Yeah,
he's saying the city won't let him. He's very public about this. So there are individuals who are willing, business people who are willing to do stuff. They don't get the support they need. And there are a contingent of folk who are trying to get something that's not going to come here. And so it's like, well,
I see where you're going at this.
If food is essential to life,
yeah,
and people are starving because of the food desert,
yeah,
then it would seem to me that the most important thing is to get these people what? Food.
Food, yeah.
Not 6 years from now.
Right.
Because the immediate need is right now, not 6 years from now. Now. So what can we do to help this crisis now? So it has to be more than just
well
food. It's a whole agenda, and the agenda is superseding the practicality in terms of the fix, in my opinion.
And that other side of the agenda is what people are probably not hearing unless you're on the inside, because under the assumption is I would think anybody that has the money to open up their business and they meet the requirements shouldn't be in a situation where they can't actually have it take place. There might be a little time span. You might have to go through certain things, but if you meet the business requirements to have a business, you have your money, you have your location.
You should reach out to Max Guitari and see what see if he'll come and talk.
That would be good.
Because he is a very successful businessman in this city, in this state.
Right. And he could definitely.
He has a love for the community, a love for Hartford, a love for Hartford's North End.
Mm-hmm. And we need to get behind people like that.
And there's one place that, if we're going to put the North End needs a supermarket, it's really needed.
Mm-hmm. In North Main Street.
On North Main Street, right.
Where he's located at.
Down in that area. Now, do you think that area needs? Now, there's a food desert. You think that area needs a supermarket? Or should we put it up near downtown North?
Yeah, that area needs
downtown North. If the people up there can do, the people in downtown North, folks living in all those apartments downtown, they can have the peapod. They can have their food could be hand delivered, one kernel of corn at a time, because they can afford it.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's kind of hard, not hard, but I guess it's a little complex to figure out the geographical structure of a city like Hartford, with your surrounding towns, because it looks like to me it was even some poor designing. Prospect Street, across the street or down the street is West Hartford. Right across the street is Hartford. What's really the difference? I guess there's a tax difference. I guess there's other financial differences, but it just seemed like you're looking at the same street.
Well, these are old communities.
So that's probably why it looks
they're
that
not
way.
New communities. Newer communities have a better urban design. The older communities just grew.
Okay.
West Hartford was a rural farm town at one time. Mm-hmm. Same with Bloomfield. So things change over time, and you adapt as you go along. So anyone necessarily designing a thoroughfare to go from here to there. Mm-hmm. And then, Hartford, Connecticut is very, very, all these little towns. You got 169 towns in Connecticut.
And it's a small state too.
Right. Everybody wants autonomy.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it'd be quite not a major difference, but like Bronzeville, Texas borders Mexico. There's a city that's right across from Bronzeville, Texas, that if you go across or a few blocks down, you're in Mexico, a whole nother country. So what I'm saying, you have to cut the border off someplace at some area. You can't keep Hartford all the way in the way. It has to cut off at some point.
Hartford had a geographical footprint, and that's what it was. Then another town incorporated on the other side, and then they had their little geographical footprint, and these things keep growing. And
well, my whole point is, if you're driving from Hartford, people who are unfamiliar may not know this, but if you're driving from Hartford into Wilson, then you get into Windsor. I don't know what
Wilson is a part of
Windsor. That's true. It's just they just call it Wilson section.
It's like North Hartford or Blue Hills or the West End.
But I mean, if you all of a sudden saying because you live in Windsor, other than there may be some big tax differences, like obviously the school system would be different. Your children could go. So there are some differences why one city, a person may decide it's more of their interest to live in that town or city than the other side of Hartford. But just the way the buildings and the way the area, if you're going by appearance, I wouldn't say because you live in the Wilson section of Windsor, you're so much different than the North Main section. It looks almost the same to me. The houses look pretty much the same in most cases.
I think you'd have to talk to the people that live in these sections of towns.
Yeah.
Because people are very passionate about where they live.
It is.
And, Windsor's interesting because they define themselves by the exits.
Yes.
So, the upper numbers versus the lower numbers. I mean, it's everywhere has this little ugly politics.
Ugly politics, yeah.
Because people are all about control and power.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter where you live.
Mm-hmm.
It's everywhere.
Yeah. Well, as I said before, Stan, until you really get in the inside of the circles, like you say, this max business owner, people that's in business or people that's trying to do things, when you really get inside and interact and see what they're going through on the outside, it may be easy to figure out or say, and this should happen easily or that shouldn't happen. But when you're really in the inside and you see what they're going through, it seems like on one hand, I think you was kind of trying to move towards this statement when you were saying the people or the policymakers in Hartford should be getting behind the businesses that we already have. I think you was kind of going at downtown. It's nice to have a vital downtown. I think every city should have a thriving downtown where it's, developed in a different way, like a downtown image. But you may have some issues with they're trying to promote downtown Hartford for outsiders or outside of people who don't live in the city, more than they're not really concerned for the people that live in the city. I don't know if you was trying to address it that way or not, but I know you've made statements like that in the past, that the policymakers and the business movers and shakers, they're trying to develop downtown Hartford and downtown North to some degree to attract people outside and do everything they can for outside businesses and people more than the businesses and people that already live in the city. Is that still how you feel about how the downtown is moving towards?
Well, I think downtown has, there's there was an effort for a long time to bring people into downtown from out of Hartford. Because I guess those people would bring in money and they would spend the money downtown. So that's a really great thing. If there's no demand pushing it, then you have to hope that when you make it, they come. And the baseball stadium brings people in.
You was in favor of the baseball stadium. You thought
I was always in favor of the baseball stadium. I was very public about that. Now that it's a grand success, everybody wants to jump in like they were for it. The baseball stadium is here. It is successful because of Pedro Segarra. It cost him his re-election. So, he paid for that stadium in more ways than one. I would have done the financing different if it was up to me, but there's nothing wrong with wanting to see Hartford grow and to bring people in. I just don't think it should be at the expense of the people who are here. That's all.
Yeah,
because there are a multitude of issues and a multitude of interests that are that need to be satisfied. So,
well, like you said before about being mutually beneficial, if there's a way that you could do both, I mean, like you say, it doesn't have to be at the expense of Hartford residents or the city of Hartford to have success. If you could develop, downtown, because it used to be the point when downtown appeared like it was for everybody. I mean, people from all over Connecticut would come to G Fox's, and people that lived in the city would come downtown. I mean, truthfully, I got to be honest, I don't shop really downtown. I don't circulate. The only business I go to really is Harvey and Lewis. I love their business for eyewear. And other than that, I mean, every now and then I might stop at this place or stop at that place, but regularly, and I think I kind of might speak for the majority of people, they just don't go downtown and circulate throughout the week like it used to be. I mean, that's just point blank. What the times have changed for whatever reason. And the big scope is the city downtown is not looked at as a place for all different social economic levels of people. it looks like there's a lot of gaps in between.
Well, downtown Hartford's not that big.
Yeah, but it used to be a city that had it used to be jam packed. I mean, it's not that.
Yeah, but that it didn't used to be a West Hartford mall. It didn't used to be a Buckland Hills mall, and it, was in the 50s, and everyone came into Hartford, and it was a great store in Hartford called G Fox, and everyone shopped there, and that's where you went. You went downtown.
Yeah, and the Whalers used to be down playing hockey down.
Right. So it was a different time. We don't live in the past.
But what are they trying to develop it to? I mean, you could still develop your city where it could still be vital in your downtown.
You can desire to have these things. In the face of how people shop being present, you can ignore it,
right,
and build storefronts and hope that people will just, I'm not going to stay home and shop and have my stuff delivered. Or you can make adjustments based upon the things you see happening. What you may want is different than what is.
Well, isn't Pratt Street who I said last week, if it's not 100% occupied, it's under contract, isn't that kind of a nice development to see that if it's according to what it's being projected to be?
There's a lot going on Pratt Street. We'll see how it turns out. I had a conversation with some people just last week.
So it sounds like it may not be all what it's cracked up to.
I think now that Pratt Street has some of the people who are on Pratt Street who are a little bit more influential than others have moved toward making Pratt Street more of a destination for people who actually live in Hartford.
Okay.
You have salsa on Pratt Street. There's things, and then you can't get on the street because it's packed.
It's packed, yeah.
Because you're appealing to the people who actually live in the city. So there's no outreach to make the city's residents a part of this vibrant growth.
Well, one thing,
it's a matter of whose vision prevails. If you're trying to create something that isn't and hope that it works out, be careful you don't wind up like these places. These are ghost cities. You ever see the ghost cities in China?
Oh, okay.
Where they build entire cities. And of course there's supposed to be, there's no people here. And are we building ghost cities? Where there's, if you build it, they'll come. No, if you build it, you hope they come, so you build it. But just because you built it doesn't mean people are going to come there. What are you going to do? Force people to go downtown?
Yeah.
There's no demand for it. If there was a demand, you couldn't fill these places up fast enough.
Well, one thing, there is a high rental housing market demand downtown. Certainly, I think that, because they're building new or transforming new buildings into rental housing, and it seems to be a strong demand for that.
They're building them because the companies aren't there anymore. So they're transforming those into rental units to try and capitalize on the opportunity to make money.
Okay.
Because what good is an empty building?
So that's not a high demand. That's just transforming.
We hope it turns in. They hope that it turns into a high demand, right? So if it turns into a high demand, that'll be great. But the problem with that is who can live there?
Right.
Young people. I've had this conversation ad nauseum. But young people move into downtown, and it's downtown. Arts, entertainment, lights, glitz. And then you've eaten everywhere. You've shopped everywhere.
Yeah.
You've gone from Main Street down Pratt Street to the Civic Center Mall. Oh, there's no Civic Center Mall. And then you come back up Pratt Street. You go down maybe Asylum. That's it.
That's it, yeah. Because Front Street really is
well,
not.
maybe if we go over Front Street, so we'll go down the side street past, the Richardson, the old Sage Allen.
Mm-hmm.
There's no shops back there. Well, let me walk up Market Street and see what I can find. What's this over here? There's Front Street. There's a whole block.
Mm-hmm.
The restaurants, there's no stores.
Yeah.
Can't buy any retail. Can't buy clothes. There's a bookstore. Oh, let me walk up and go stop at the Athenaeum. There's the park. Maybe, let's go see what's happening at the Bushnell. See a play. Oh, go to Hartford Stage.
Mm-hmm.
Go to Theater Works.
Or the Science Center, maybe.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about it. We go to the Science Center. Oh, well, this was a cool display. When they're going to change this in August. I don't have any kids, so I don't know.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's not that much to hold you as a resident. This is not New York.
Mm-hmm.
You'll die before you eat at every restaurant in New York City.
In New York, yes.
So, where's the Pakistani restaurant, the Indian restaurant, the West Indian restaurant, the Thai restaurant, the Polish restaurant? They're in Hartford, but they're all over the city.
All over the city, yeah.
But we're focusing on downtown. And so, the restaurants downtown are not open. You come downstairs on a Saturday morning and things aren't open yet. Sunday, everything's closed. Because it's a small town with tall buildings. And that's the reality. So they keep trying to make it into this thing that it isn't. And so, it just...
But again, I think if the city leaders and they reached out, because some of those businesses that you just mentioned, you have to go in the neighborhoods. The Caribbean population is very high and very, profitable. They support a lot of their businesses. And a small city like Hartford, I mean, you could have a nice, and I guess Russell, that is a West Indian American.
The Russell is out in West Hartford now.
But then they put it something where it used to be at. Isn't there some business? It may not be the Russell. It may be like another.
On Pratt Street?
No.
Down by the train station.
Down by the train station. I think it's the Caribbean restaurant owned, but it's not the Russell anymore. It's another name that they call it.
Oh, I don't know.
Okay.
I know that
right where Coach's Sports Bar used to be at.
I know where you're talking about.
Yeah. I think that is a Caribbean restaurant. But it's not the Russells anymore. It's a different name. I thought the Russells revamped itself and opened there, but maybe it's not.
When I was 19, it was a dance club.
Yeah. No, but that place is a Caribbean, West Indian American restaurant. But that's not.
Yeah, my point is that it doesn't take long to go through everything that there is to do downtown.
Exactly.
And if you're a young person moving into one of these apartment buildings that you're talking about, in a couple of years, you're going to get married, you're going to have a kid, you're going to move.
All right.
Period. When you get through the 26, like you talked about earlier, and a couple weeks ago when you talked about Steve Harvey. Not Steve Harvey.
Well, I did mention Steve Harvey was an example of your 20s, 30s, 40s.
I'm thinking about someone else. Yeah, Steve Harvey, like how you burn through the first 10 years from 20 to 30, then you wake up.
Right.
You're 10 years behind. At some point in there, the young people in there are going to realize, I'm paying all this money for rent. I can have a really nice house for, $2,000 a month. Why am I paying rent? And then you're going to have all these apartment buildings downtown, and all the people can start this mass exodus when they either have a child or they realize they could do better financially by doing and getting more for their money and having a hard asset as opposed to throwing it away with rent.
Yeah.
And so I don't think those types of things are sustainable in the long haul, but they're not,
Yeah. No need to frustrate yourself trying to figure out the concept on what the city should be doing more than what they're not doing in basic logic. But, once the decision is made, like you mentioned before, sometimes it's very difficult to revamp it once a decision has become final. It's what you do before the decision actually takes place, what you have stated, that kind of plays the role. But again, I mean, you know, is the other businesses in the city being supportive? I think some businesses are being supportive. You go to any Chinese restaurant, it's always, these are takeout restaurants mostly, but they always
have a product that people want.
So
if you have a product people want, people will come to you to get it. If you have a service people want, people will come to you to receive those services. Goods and services, people. That's what sustains a business. The demand for what it is you provide. As long as there's a demand, you'll stay in business. If there's no demand, then you're not in business.
Yeah,
anymore.
well, business is business. I mean, I think that's the key element about a business. I mean, you know, you can't get too sentimental about, you know, passionate towards helping people. I mean, that's all part of life. You know, am I my brother's keeper? But a business is a different thing when you're putting money on the table. You just have to be careful how you spend your money, how you invest your money. So you can't take a bad risk and, you know, do something that's not feasible. Like you're mentioning, if a business don't see their business being sustained or being supported, then it's just not gonna be to their best interests. Are we gonna turn our cities into nonprofits and everything is about a nonprofit model because we can't keep enough businesses or grow enough businesses? So nonprofits is the now new structure.
It's just a matter of how the community and the people in charge see things. Every town in Connecticut doesn't have a thriving downtown. Some of them are very small, almost non-existent.
Yeah.
But the community does well. Hartford as a community could do better if the people that run Hartford were focused on serving the constituents instead of a grand plan to create some, you know, grandiose business that only spends money with construction and all this other stuff and all these things that happen as opposed to actually serving the need. Should there be a thriving downtown? It would be nice. Would there be it would be great if people just came here all day long and it was packed out and there were concerts going on and there was conventions happening all the time. If all those things were happening, no one's against those things. But do you set your goal to make those things happen, or do you set your goal to serve the people here, build a better quality of life among the residents, make their earning power better so that they can contribute in taxes better, make better housing, make the housing that's here better? There are so many things that could be done to make Hartford a better place for Hartford. But the powers that be have chosen that is not the priority, in my opinion.
You know, I don't know, maybe to get off the topic slightly, but still connected. I mean, I don't know if you see it the same way, Stan, but some economic experts, I mean, Dave Walker was on the program a couple of years ago, and I remember him mentioning that this era that we're in now, if you have skills and highly educated and you're going to become extremely marketable. And sometimes I debate people about the worker shortage. Is there really what is justifying the worker shortage? Is people just not making enough money? They just want to be more selective. But other than that, you would think right now this was one of the best eras to be in. If you're looking for economic advancement, you're looking to get into the economic economy. I don't know about businesses, that might be a little different. But just as a job, or even starting home-based businesses, people are working remote now. You said that's always been around for a while, but maybe the pandemic kind of pushed the remote working model a little bit stronger, or a lot stronger. But it's almost like, would you say today, Stan, you could kind of select any type of opportunity or avenue that you want to go down because is the door wide open? I mean, that's kind of what I'm really trying to find out.
It seems to me the door's wide open. If it may not be wide open for you here in Hartford or in Litchfield or in, Birmingham. You don't know. Depending upon where you are, you may have to move to take advantage of those opportunities. I think people become sedentary. They want the opportunity to come to them as opposed to going to where the opportunities are. Opportunities are out there, but sometimes you have to go to them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, not to really put your situation of the past with you running for mayor, but I remember when you ran for mayor, the 2011 election, I want to kind of just ask you about more than even the 2007 and 2019, because you had just recently, got fired from the Hartford Public Access Station, and you spent like a 4-year period building up the network, and then simultaneously you was running for public office in 2011, and then things didn't work out with the election results that you wanted it, but then the network kind of moved into a different level. Saying that to say, was that an easy decision? I mean, because I think you was looking for a job actually all over the country at one point. I think after the 2011 election, you realized, well, I'm not going to become mayor right now. I'm not working for the Hartford Public.
Well, no, you that was 2007.
It wasn't 2011?
Oh, no. 2007, I got.
You got fired from 2007, but I mean, you spent the 4-year period from 2007 to about 2011 transforming the network with the website.
Well, I decided to, after I was liberated from the burden of running Hartford Public Access Television, because I ran for mayor, I was terminated, and so. At that point, I started looking for jobs, but decided to stay here and focus on my business.
Right.
That wasn't 2011.
It wasn't
2007.
Okay, I guess I'm a little mixed up with the dates.
Right. That's when I first started AccessTV.org, which wasn't AccessTV.org. It was HPATV5.com.
Well, I thought the 2000.
And then it became AccessTV.org.
But that still was a 4-year period that I thought it took for you to get the network built.
Well, I mean, it didn't take that long. It may have seemed like it took long because when you start off, you're nothing. No one knows you from Adam. So it takes time for you to build an audience and to build a constituency and to build recognition and name. It takes time. It's not you just decide to do something now you're there. And so that's probably the 4 years you're thinking of.
The 4 years, right? That I'm thinking about. Yeah. And then the opportunity came with Jeffrey Dressler to decide
that was in 2008.
Oh, okay. I have to see again.
You're 4 years off.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm still thinking 11 and 12. I don't know well, you came and you developed the producers format in 2012 with the network. That's what you did after 2000, because that's what you came to me about.
Wait. I'm off. With Jeffrey was 2011.
Right. Yeah. I knew some things happened in that 2011 period.
Right. That's when you started.
Well, 2012 technically is
right. Well, the network had been long before you started. Ritmo Latino. There was all kinds of shows. The cooking shows. We had a fashion show. We did all kinds. We had a poetry show that was done at Cloud 9.
Okay.
Every week.
Well, where was I at, man?
The Ritmo Latino we did almost 40 episodes of Ritmo Latino with Angel Arce. It was live salsa, live.
Yeah.
In a club, out of a club. We taped every week.
Yeah.
The Fiona Stone with the definition of style. There were we have all kinds of programs. There was a cooking program. They're not even on the network.
Yeah.
There's almost 4,000 programs on the network. All of those programs aren't even on the net because we had our own servers at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And that was before they told you can't host video on the servers anymore.
Okay.
So that's when we went to YouTube as the base. That was a big decision.
That was a big decision.
Prince Lee.
I remember Prince Lee, yes.
Prince was before 2011.
Mm-hmm. I don't remember Prince Lee on the air before 2011. I don't know where I was.
He
at.
might not have been on the air at that time.
Okay. Mm-mm. I remember one Hartford.
Well, he did a couple of programs here, and his show was called Conversatio.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
But I remember one Hartford.
One Hartford
Kevin
was
Brookman
One Hartford.
Hyacinth.
It was the Independent Republican, and then it became One Hartford.
Mm-hmm.
One Hartford. That was until that ended shortly after Eddie was left office.
Mm-hmm.
But One Hartford, Ritmo Latino, The Definition of Style, Poets. I want to say Poets Corner. Poets Corner. Yeah. Poets with Sherelle, Renee. Sherelle. Can't these things escape me. It's just so.
For some reason I can't even remember all of these things on your network.
You weren't around.
I weren't around.
You weren't around.
Okay.
You weren't around then.
Mm-hmm. But I do remember like a transformation to some degree with the producers format when I got started.
When you got started, things were a little bit different because I had the studio here, and I started doing them out of the house.
Right. Well, see, again, that's my whole concept of now you made a decision to do things. Well, you still are a videographer that you do things on location for your clients.
Right. But the business idea of accesstv.org had been undertaken with great effort and great zeal before you came.
Okay.
I know of what I'm talking. You all don't believe it. So I'm content for you all to try. Nothing beats a failure but a try.
Right.
But Prince Lee, I mean,
Prince Lee.
and a whole lot of people put a whole lot of effort into, just like in Back 9, it didn't work.
Yeah.
But you all won't accept that. So
Well, I do now.
Well, of course
after
now,
being
you
pounded, can see the reality.
But we put forth many. I went into stores all up and down Pratt Street, around the city, all kinds of stuff. You have no idea.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's a moot point. What difference does it make?
Yeah.
And so,
well, one thing I will say, and I guess this kind of falls into your ability, and then somewhat with what Ronnie Fields was talking about, is what you're gonna do afterwards. Like, okay, you got let go from the Hartford public access station. You kept telling me, and you tell me even to myself at my age now, because I'm trying to make somewhat of a transition back into the workforce a little bit differently. Someone told me one time when I was even thinking about going, shortly after I started with your network, I was just, in between jobs, and somehow I was thinking about going to Amazon. And this guy told me, well, he asked me first, how old are you? Do you really want to be working with high school students? Do you really want some college supervisor telling you what to do? I mean, it's more to it than that, but I'm just saying, the point is you was kind of in a transitionary period, I think, Stan, between 2007 and 2011. But the skill set that you had acquired with technology and the internet and being a videographer, Jeffrey would come to you now and saying, look, I can give you some type of reasons why you don't need to go throughout the country looking for jobs. Somewhere, something on that line. I think he approached you about that. But the reality is you had the skill set to stay and find a way to make a profit, make a living. So you could say, I don't need to work a 9-to-5 job because I have my own business. I'm a freelance independent videographer. So not saying you plan your life for it to be the way that it came out to be, but having that skill set and that experience contributed to why you can do what you're doing. And then use this network with you and Nyesha as a form of giving back to the community. More than feeling like you're under pressure and you got to find a job, pretty much, and now you can't do other things that you would like to do. I think your life is kind of balanced where you can pick up your children after school. You can kind of be flexible, where if you have a 9-to-5 job, you're working from 7 to 3:30 or whatever, 3 to 11. Personally, now you can't pick up your children from school. Maybe that puts the pressure on Nyesha. So I think people, particularly during the pandemic, has been able to look at their measure of their life. And that's what I'm saying, is this the best era that you can kind of be more selective of what you're looking to do, more than just feeling like doing what you have to do.
Yeah, and then that's part of the reason why there's a lack of individuals available for many people who are trying to hire folks, because people can be very selective. I don't need to do this job, so I'm not going to. People are not in a desperate need to have to go to work. They have learned to live within their means. There's no reason whatsoever that people shouldn't be able to live off of the income of one person. Other than they want stuff that they can't afford. And for some odd reason, they believe because they want it, they should be able to have it. But most people, if they manage their money right, if they live within their means, can get by with one person working. Then your children don't have you, because if you're both working, now your kids gotta go to daycare. You gotta pay the daycare people,
right,
to watch and teach your children who knows what. Then you gotta go pick them up. You gotta go drop them off. Pick them up, drop them off. There's all of these added costs. Whereas if you're home with your children, you can raise them. They can be grounded, centered. There's so many more benefits that come from strengthening your children yourself, giving them the foundation. That's an investment in time. We used to always do that. And then somewhere along the way, that changed. So, people make conscious decisions that best suit their particular need. For us, this was the best thing for us.
Well, not to really debate you or even disagree with you, because, I'm not a financial expert. I'm not an economist. I'm not a person that deals with as a housing specialist. You're saying you could sustain yourself and live with one income. You don't need two incomes. Again, it depends on how much you're earning, what you do with your money. You're going to always have to pay utility bills, rent, mortgage, food.
Right.
Now, people will say,
can a single person live on that? You have a lot of single people living.
It depends on how much and where you want to live and how you want to live.
That's a given, Jonathan.
Yeah.
You have to live within your means. You have to live within your means. That means you might have to live not downtown Hartford. You may have to live in Ellington, or live in East Hartford, or live somewhere, I don't know where.
In the boondocks.
In the boondocks. Or you might find a place in Hartford. My point is, if a single person can support themselves, then two people living in the same environment, the only thing you need to add really is the food that the second person consumes. And then some clothes. You don't need to buy new clothes every single week.
Yeah,
At some point, you reach a maximum that you have all that you need.
You know what?
Now it goes to what I want. I want a new car. I want to go on vacation. Those things are all great. But there are a whole lot of people in the country and around the world who don't have the luxury of doing those things, and they're content and happy. First world people are content and happy and don't have a whole lot of these material possessions. They're at one with their environment, at one with their community, one with their families and their people, and they're not struggling. Mm-hmm. And so we come along and want to impose a consumer capitalistic mindset on them, where you have to consume. We consume so much that we can't keep it, so we wind up throwing good stuff away.
Yeah.
Because we're tired of it. And so we buy something new. People have had like 10, 15 phones that all do the same thing. Mm-hmm. But this one is thinner. This one has got a little bit extra button. Mm-hmm. They moved the buttons on this one to be here. We're addicted to consumption, and that's a very, very expensive.
Well, I think the thing, because I see it every day at the airport, people traveling. I mean, somebody I just knew just took a cruise. And again, it's good to take a vacation. It's good to balance your life out. I'm not disputing that. But no trip to Europe is going to be for $200. I mean, you got to be realistic.
Yeah, so those people are making lots of money, and they want to spend it. They want to go on vacation. I'm not against.
But see, I don't think
we're
all
talking about people who have decided not to go back to work. Mm-hmm. You put forth as an idea that people have reassessed their lives to where they're content. I'm just suggesting that you can actually do that. And so those people, to them, working somewhere that they hate for a boss they can't stand isn't worth it.
Right.
And during the pandemic, they realized, I don't need to work. My husband works, or my wife works, and I take care of the kids, or I take care of the house. They're not forced into this false paradigm of we must do this stuff. And so they've changed their lifestyle.
Well, that's part of it. I mean, I'm not, and then that may be a big part of it too. I know some people try to speculate because the stimulus money has all ran out. The income. Some people have did very well with your income tax. I mean, some people just decided to find other avenues to. And I said this last week, to manage your time. If you could figure out that I can make money doing something less hours than I can a full-time hourly rate as the person I know in one business, go for it. So
right.
There's other factors too, but that's probably what you just mentioned is a big factor too. That people,
right. At the end of the day, Jonathan, we go round and round about this for the next 60 years. Mm-hmm. Human beings do what is in their personal best interest and what makes them feel good. Mm-hmm. Just because there's a demand for work doesn't mean that you're going to have the labor force. And right now, they don't have the labor force. Mm-hmm. And you got all these people trying to figure out why. But the most obvious one is the one they won't accept. Mm-hmm. People don't want to work for you.
Yeah.
And they are not going to. And they're still surviving. Mm-hmm. They're not starving to death.
Right.
They're not in desperate straits. They're not in survival mode, or they would go to work. Mm-hmm. They've adapted to be able to not need those jobs. Mm-hmm. These jobs weren't created. The workforce diminished.
Yeah. Well, the selective mode too. I mean, again, I would still rather play the cards when you have more options as the employee or the person that's looking to generate revenue. Like if you can say now, I again don't have to take this job because it's the only job that I can get more than I could do another. I mean, it is a marketable. It's right now they say. It's the workers, or it's an employee-driven market. It used to be a time it used to be the other way around. It was an employer-driven. It was hard to get certain jobs,
right.
Hard to find work.
But it's not now.
It's not now.
Right.
But being selective, because now being marketable and selective.
I don't know how marketable you are. They need Waiters.
Yeah.
How marketable do you need to be?
Right.
They need waiters. But people don't want to do wait.
Wait.
They don't want to be wait staff.
Right.
So restaurants are in a very tough way. That means that you're going to have to pay people more or use technology. There's something that has to give, or they're going to be out of business. This is not rocket science.
Yes.
The electric boat needs welders. If you don't have welding skill, they'll teach you. This is a great time to go and get a job if you want to be a welder.
Right.
If you don't want to weld, they're going to have to come up with some other way to build submarines. Get robots, get AI that does welding, you know. But if you're the employer and you have work that needs to be done and you need human beings to do the work, you better find those human beings. You're going to have to compensate them at a higher rate. You got to charge your customer more money, something. Otherwise, you will be out of business. Or you have to come up with an alternative, which may be robots.
Automate, yeah.
Some sort of automation. Now, when people decide that they need the job or they need the income, the work is no longer available. Now it flips. Now we have more workers than we have work. Now I don't have to pay you anything. I can pay you dirt cheap. I don't need you. Now the workers' power diminishes. So right now there are more people who need laborers than there are laborers.
Right.
So the options are abundant for somebody. It is up to that person to make the choice as to what they want to do. It's no more complicated than that.
Well, that's what Ronnie Fields was talking about earlier, beyond just basketball. Again, if you don't want to be, because I said this, if you don't want to be a warehouse worker or you don't want to do some job with a boss over your back, okay, figure out what it is that you want to do and what it is that you're capable of doing.
And hope there's a job.
And hope that there's a job there. So you can say that's selective more than being marketed. That's just you selecting which path that you want to go down or which career or whatever you want to do. And because you may have more choices now than you would have had, like you say, when it gets to they don't need you, then you may be, I'm not in this position to be selective. I got now, time is running out. I've lost my money or whatever. So having the type of training or whatever you need is still something people should do. I don't want to say what you're saying. People got so content that they can just kick back, relax, and take it easy and don't try to upgrade yourself and develop yourself, because anything, the pandemic, it could have easily destroyed the whole economy. I mean,
in many cases it did.
Okay.
There's a lot of people that were out of business. So their businesses were destroyed.
So actually it did destroy
it. It did a lot of damage when they shut down the economy. The pandemic didn't do that. Leaders made that decision.
Shutting down. Because it had a big ripple effect. I mean, you had even mentioned talking to some entertainers. I mean, they couldn't make music, or they was just not in. A lot of people who was in entertainment business.
Show business is a business. And if there's no show, there's no business. There's no money. There's no revenue. And you need a concert to do, or a gig. You got to perform at a nightclub or whatever. If you can't do that, you don't make any money.
Right.
Your high demand means nothing if it ain't. I mean, your high skill set means nothing if there's no demand for it. And if you can't adapt, then you're going to be done.
Yeah. Well, like I say, I mean, again, it was real interesting talking about, basketball or sports. But again, the big picture is life. And, everybody got to work with what you're capable of working with. I mean, that's the whole grand scheme of it. But again, hopefully, the network and whatever plans you have with the network can continue to flourish.
As long as I want to get up in the morning and do these programs.
Yeah, exactly. better you do it home than having to go to some studio across town.
All right. Well, I'm not going to a studio.
You're not
across
going to
town.
do that.
Right, so that's not going to happen.
That's not going to happen.
Yeah. Stan, I think we need a bigger place. What if you had a no? You can have a studio. I'll help you I'll help you build it, put it together, and then you run it.
Right. Okay.
Right.
Well, again, look forward to your programs later this week. Hopefully, you'll have a live show Wednesday.
Wednesday we should be live.
Should be live.
Should be live Friday. Yeah, Tuesday is a Board of Education meeting. That should be, those are always interesting to me anyway.
Right. And let me work on getting a guest confirmed for next Monday. But again, just trying to find something as an informative, interesting topic to bring, and appreciate you giving me the platform.
Well, it's always good to have you here, Jonathan. Guests are always very interesting and always want to hear from what they have to say. So, all right, my friends, we're out of time. We'll see you next time. Share the program with family, friends, and foe. That way you keep them in the know. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye-bye.